it's Denise, Minty Grade Mama, and today I have kind of an April overview favorites video. And I wanted to start with my stones. I only have a couple that I've been working with on a consistent basis this month, just particular ones that I've really loved. And the first one is Priscilla Bluestone. And I have really been loving the energies from this stone. One of the things that's supposed to help you do is speak your truth. And since I feel like I really need help in that area, because I just tend to not want to rock the boat sometimes, or just not be offend people, but not everybody has that same sentiment. So I feel like I think a lot like, man, I wish I would have said something. And so that would be really great, but I haven't worked with it specifically for that reason. But I know that's one of the things that this stone is supposed to be good for. Also, like ancestor work, I think, as well. And so I do have a book about this stone, Priscilla Bluestone, that I hope to read, but it's just time constraints. I haven't had the moment. So anyway, I've been using this for some dream work, and it's been really interesting, and I've been really liking this stone for that. So that's Priscilla Bluestone. And then I have I have a crystal skull that I don't know if I've introduced here on my channel. Her name is Rose, and see, I don't know if you could see. So when I got her in, from the side when I saw her, I bought this one online, and I don't think I noticed at the time, but when you look straight on, like her, where her eyes are is uneven. And so when I first got this in, I was like, oh no, that's not even, that's going to drive me crazy. And then I realized, everything happens for a reason. And I think that this particular crystal skull, the fact that she is made out of rose quartz, and she does have kind of like the imperfection here is, I mean, there's just so much to read into that, but it's really, I think, helping me learn to embrace imperfections, and there's those kind of lessons. But specifically, she's just a very comforting stone. Like, I just find myself just sitting there with her right over my heart chakra, and she's just amazing. She kind of has like a little bit of a coloration on the side there, but yeah, so she's been great, and I've been doing a lot of meditation with her. And it was actually through one of those meditations that I was inspired to get out a deck that I've been wanting to work with more often, and I just haven't. And so that particular deck is the Osho Zen Tarot. And I've had this one for a while, and I've looked through it, and I've used it for a few readings. I've actually used it for readings with others, and it's really interesting, but I don't know, it was one of those things where I got it out for a while, and then I put it away and kind of forgot about it. And I really like the illustration, the images. They're really interesting. I've been reading through the guidebook, and I don't know if I connect with all the meanings yet that are given for this, but because it was an inspiration that I had during like a really good meditation, I have been just honoring that inspiration and trying to work with this deck more often this month. And so that is something that this one is just a really cool card. Suppression. So this is there's actually not that many decks that I've really worked with this month, and I'm kind of just going with the flow. I had specifically set out, I have like a page in my bullet journal where I kind of listed all the decks that I wanted to work with this year. I had picked one for each month, and I'm kind of moving away from that because I found out that I like to work with one deck in depth for maybe more than that. So that is something that I'm doing, kind of just going with the flow right now. So this deck is Raven Phelan or Phelan. It's deck the Messenger Oracle. And this one is this is the deck that I've been using in the month of April. I've felt called to use this particular deck to work with my crystal skull tribe. I always feel like, besides meditation, like working with my crystal skull tribe and getting messages from them, like it always flows better for me if I use a deck. And so this deck has been the one that I have been called to use this month, and it's been really it's worked out really well. I've really gotten a lot of good messages. I really enjoy the artwork in this deck, and I had this is a deck that when I first got it, I used it every day for like a daily draw, and I just love her artwork, and you know, the messages were kind of really on point. And then it was during a time where I was just getting so many decks that eventually, like, I'm just like, oh, I got a new deck and I want to try it out. And so I just put this one aside and kind of got on with the new decks. And as I've been doing my clear out, oh, there's so many pretty dragons. As I've been doing my clear out of all my decks, I've been discovering some that I've, you know, been pulling out and enjoying working with again. So that's just one of the benefits I've been experiencing from the great tarot clear out of 2019. And so here's one that I was surprised with. When I was going through my decks, I have a ton that I am letting go, and I'm going to do a video on that next. But one of the decks I thought for sure I was going to let go, I don't know, like I have hardly worked with this since I got it. And that's the Akashic Tarot by Sharon Ann Klinger and Sandra Ann Taylor. And yeah, this is kind of an interesting deck. It says it's a tarot. It's the Akashic Tarot. I had actually pre-ordered this on Amazon. I thought, you know, Akashic Tarot sounded really cool. And then I got it, and it was like totally different than a tarot deck. And I was like, I had to read the book, you know, when I wanted to look up the meanings and things. I was like, I don't have time for this. So I kind of put it away. But like the names of the suits are different. Like I said, there's 62 cards instead of 78. So that's a big difference. I'm trying to remember. I think the minors only go up to, there's still the 22 majors, if I'm not mistaken. I think the minors only go up to 8, but I think there's still, I don't know. See, now I can't remember all the differences, but I haven't still worked with it that much, but I have been called to start pulling cards. And as I've been pulling the cards and reading the meanings, I've also been kind of going through the guidebook. So I'm starting to get a little bit familiar, a little bit more with this deck, but I still have a lot to go. But I was just surprised that I was called to use this deck. I mean, there's a lot of great things about it. The cardstock's wonderful. I love the back design. The images are really interesting, and what I like about the images, and I think that they're designed in a certain way to kind of draw you into the picture, and they have this in the guidebook. It under each card has Akashic Force, and it's like a little visualization that you can do when you have the certain card to kind of put yourself in that energy and to get an answer. And I've actually gotten some really good answers to my questions just from that exercise. So for me, this deck was worth keeping mainly just for that reason. I don't really consider it a tarot deck. It is a tarot oracle deck. I mean, it does have the suits and it has all the majors, although I think that they are all renamed. Like I believe that wait a second. Wait a second here. Do they have more than? So yeah, so they have 22 majors, but this starts at 1 instead of 0. And so 21, you can see here, is Uriel and the Sphinx. So that's really different. And then 22 is Add Some. So this was, I don't know, it's something that's still kind of, it's not intuitive for me, but the exercises in the guidebook have been really eye-opening. So it's been really cool. Let's see. Okay, as far as decks go, so I'm really letting go of a lot of decks. I've already let go of a few. I have a whole bunch more that I'm gonna, like I said, do a whole another video on. And so I haven't been really buying decks, but what ended up happening is I had a friend who was interested in some of the decks I was letting go and wanted to do a trade. And I was like, that sounds fun. I've never really done a trade. I tend to like hold on to my stuff a bit too much, I think, or I have in the past. So I ended up trading some of the decks I was letting go, and I just got this one, which is the Fountain Tarot. I wasn't really, I gotta say, I wasn't like looking for the Fountain Tarot, but and I had never really felt drawn to purchase the Fountain Tarot, but some of the images seemed really interesting. And so I've looked through some of the images, I've done my, I smudged the deck and all that. I like the backs of the cards. I like the silver edges, but to me, this deck seems kind of like masculine. Like, I don't know. There's definitely women in the deck. Like, there's the High Priestess. But to me, it seems like a very, and the Empress, of course, nice. But, so the Hierophant's a man, but that's kind of, normal. I don't know, like, I don't know why exactly, like, it strikes me as masculine, but I don't know if it's the colors or the style or what, but I don't know if that'll change. Like, I'm definitely going to work with this deck a while and just kind of, like, I love the fountain card. I think that's really cool. And I haven't read the little book yet, but I know this is a really, this is a really popular deck, and I like this image. I've seen a lot, and I think that's really cool. I'm not sure what I think about this High Priestess card. It's not like a bad image, but it's, I don't know. It's not my favorite High Priestess card, but I really do, like the Empress card. There's several cards that I really do like. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a try, and I'm going to try it out for a bit and see how that works. So that is one deck that I have actually acquired this month. Oops. And which was kind of a surprise too. So that's always fun. And I traded like multiple decks for that one, just because I'm trying not to bring in more, so I'm trying to, so anyway, I still feel like I am not still getting more and more and more decks. But then I did get one that I pre-ordered, which I already did a walkthrough of this one on my channel, which is Wild Messengers Alchemical Tarot, which is, if you haven't seen a walkthrough of this yet, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Oops. The backs are awesome, and they've got texture on them, and I love the cosmic-y nature of the paintings, but I have not really worked with it. That's the thing about pre-ordering decks, is just because, like, I pre-ordered a deck and I do love this deck, and I'm glad that I ordered it, even though that was before, like, I was even trying to not get so many decks even at the time, but I wasn't ready to start working with another deck when I got this, although it's just like, it's one of those things that's so exciting to get a new deck. I almost kind of want to start working with it, but I've been really enjoying the deck that I've been working with lately. Oh, which, let me see if I can reach it. I forgot to bring it over here. Okay, so the deck that I worked with the most this month has been the Thoth, Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, and that really surprised me. Like, I was just going about my business, working with my other decks and everything was great, and then all of a sudden I just felt really drawn to getting this deck out, and I did. And I started working with it, and I was just getting such insightful readings, like, for myself. And I thought, wow, I had this deck, and then I gave it away because I just have a weird history with this deck. Like, I really wanted to love it, but then, like, I would hear people say, oh, Aleister Crowley's like evil and all this stuff, and I was like, no, I don't know if that's true. Like, I know nothing. Like, I have no personal knowledge of that. And I actually knew people during my formative, like, magical years that were really into Aleister Crowley's work, and I was like, well. I actually went to a workshop by Lon Milo Duquette, and I got his book, which I'll show you in a minute. And he did a talk about the cards, which was really interesting. And that's actually when I got my first copy of the Thoth Tarot. And I was really excited to work with it. And then I'd be in a group of people doing tarot, and I'd be like, oh, I'm going to use my Thoth. And they're like, oh, you're going to use the Thoth. Like, oh, that's kind of risque, or it was just like this weird attitude, and so I kind of put it away. And then I got it out several years later and tried reading through the book, understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, and I just couldn't get through it. And so it was just one of those things that eventually I said, I just don't have time for this, and I gave my deck away. And I had, I think, a couple other books, and I gave those away, and I didn't give this one away because it was a signed copy, and I just felt like, oh, I'm going to keep that one because it was a signed copy, and I'm glad that I kept it, because I have been working with this deck like every day, and I don't know, I think it was just one of those things where it was just time. So this is my book. This is an older edition too, and because I read it through several times, at least the first part, and I've creased the binding and all that stuff, and so it's kind of precariously being held together right now in a few certain parts. So I think there is a newer edition that has like an extra chapter or something, or let's see, this is from 2003. So I think there's a newer edition. So I'm considering getting the newer one so that this one doesn't like completely fall apart on me. That actually happened with my Robin Wood Tarot guidebook. The pages were like falling out, and I finally just had to buy a new one. So that's only the second time I've worn out a guidebook that goes with the deck. So I guess that says something. So this is another book that I've been using, the keywords for the Crowley Tarot by Haju Bonzoff. That's probably completely wrong. And Bridget Theller. And this is really interesting. It has, like all the symbolism, and then I like how it has as a card for the day message, as a card for the day, and as a card for the year. In the majors it has that, and in the minors it just has some other stuff. It has encourages and warns against, and as a card for the day, and that's really interesting. But I really like the explanations, and so this has more information as far as just divination goes, because this particular book explains a lot about the meaning and the symbolism behind each of the cards, and the creation of the deck itself, and that's what I'm really into right now. But it doesn't really have a lot of actual divination information, so that is interesting. So it's nice to have like these two books. But I'm going to read the Book of Thoth, which is like the book that Crowley wrote about the deck. Although that I've read a few paragraphs, and that's going to be like a long journey of that book. That's not going to be like a book I read overnight. But let's see. But that is something that I'm definitely working on. And if you have any suggestions of other books about the Thoth Tarot, I would be really interested in hearing about them, because I've decided that May is going to be kind of like my month of Thoth Tarot, and that's what I'm really going to just dive into a lot more even than I have been. I've just been using it for like single card draws mostly, a few larger readings in April. And so if you have any other book recommendations, I'd be really interested to hear what they might be. So I think I mentioned this in my last month, but I've been continuing to work with my playing card oracles and the guidebook by Ana Cortez. And I'm trying to start a series about those. I've done one video. And I plan on getting around to more, but this is just such a great deck. Let's see, my card of the day. So yeah, I've been using these every day, and they're just kind of an interesting little like playing card deck, playing card size. Oops, upside down. And they have just illustrations, but they also still have like the little pips on them. So very clearly, playing cards. And what's interesting is the placement of the pips on the cards, on the minors, not the court cards, actually has like a meaning. So it's nice that they've kept them. I mean, that's why they kept them in the same place. C.J. Freeman, who did the illustrations, and Ana Cortez, who did the book. And these are interesting cards too. There's 2 9s that actually have people on them. And that's a really interesting part of the book as well. So these have given me some really interesting readings, but I find that by pulling a card, and the 4-card reading with this, I think is really interesting. And I'm still working with that. But for me, pulling one of the playing cards and then one tarot card really gives me a really good overview of the day. So I've been really enjoying doing that, and I'm still doing that. And I'm having a good time. And so, yeah, so I'm just going to work with those for as long as I want, instead of trying to say, well, April's over, now it's time for me to move on to something else. And let's see. Okay, so a couple of books that I've started that I'm going to try to read next month, but I don't always manage my time well as far as reading goes. But this is one that I started, which is Women Who Run with the Wolves. I'm actually doing a book club of this one, although it's been kind of slow going for me personally. But I've heard so many good things about this book, so I'm just going to work through it, and just try to focus on it as much as I can. I know one of the pieces of advice given to me was to not read any other books at the same time that I was reading this book, and I think that's probably very good advice, but it's so hard for me to just read one book at a time. I always have like several books like on the go, and I'll be like, oh, I just don't feel like reading, this one tonight, and so I'll pull like another one. And so I'm trying to at least minimize the number of books that I have going at any one time. But yeah, this one is one that I hope to spend more time with in May. So another book that I just started is Medical Medium by Anthony William. And this isn't a book that I was super interested in or thought would be that great. However, I actually heard someone talking about this book, and they recommended it, and I've been having a lot of like health challenges lately, and it just got to that point where I'm like, you know what? It's probably not going to hurt anything to read this book. It might actually help, and at this point I'm like, if it helps, then it's, I'll read it. So I just got this one in, and I've only just started the very first like chapter, but I think this is going to go kind of fast, and I'm really interested to hear what he has to say. So far, it's just I've just read the first part that's been about his story of how he, hears this voice of spirit, has since he was 4 years old and couldn't do anything to stop it. And he kind of at one point needed assistance with something, and he was like, I'm not going to fight it anymore. I will do this, what I've been called to do, which is to give people health information. And that's, I will dedicate myself to that. So that's where I am in the story. Like, he's just like deciding, I'm going to do that with my life. And then after the introduction part, I think it goes into the different symptoms that people experience and some of what spirit has told him. See, all of this is like, none of this is, he did some research and it's scientific information. This is all stuff that spirit has told him. So I'm interested to see what spirits told him about all of that. And I don't think any of it's like crazy stuff. It's just all like, he has some foods that, says will help certain things. And I am, interested to try that out and see how that goes. And so the last book that I have sitting out, and I think this is all, it just seems like so much to try to cram into like 1 month, but this is a book that I've been spending a little bit more time with, and this is called The Attention Merchants. This isn't really tarot related, but kind of is. In a very vague, it works in my life. I mean, I can associate with my tarot purchases and stuff, but this is called The Attention Merchants, The Epic Scramble to Get Inside Our Heads by Tim Wu. And this has been really eye-opening. It's a lot about so far, and I'm only like through the first 100 pages or so, but it's just been about the history of advertising, basically, and the idea that somebody had at one point decided that instead of making money on selling a product, like a newspaper as a product, like selling a newspaper as a money-making venture. This is in the first chapter. Somebody had discovered that they could run a profit from ads. Just the ads are the profit. So you sell the paper cheap just to get as many subscribers or whatever as possible, and then you can leverage the attention that you're getting from your readership into ad revenue. And so that it kind of starts out the book with Benjamin Day and the New York Sun. And I think that was like in the 1800s, early 1800s, 1830s maybe. I'm not sure exactly, like the dates just kind of slip out of my mind. But so that the way that happened was really interesting. And I just take for granted so much today, like being advertised to all the time, being promoted to, being sold to. Like I just take for granted, like, and sometimes I've talked about this in one of my other videos, like I just feel like I'm being sold to all the time, and I feel like that has been for me part of my particular spending problem that I have, is that I feel like it's almost my job as a consumer to spend money, and that I'm not important if I'm not spending money, because then it's like the people out there are selling things and they only care about you if you're going to buy. And so for me, I've felt more important when I'm using my spending power to purchase something. But then once you buy that thing, like then it goes back to, I have things, I don't necessarily need the things, but it made me feel good at the time to buy the things. And now I don't feel that great about that decision. And I have a bunch of things that I don't really need. And, but I still had like a spending problem that I hadn't really looked at until I got to one of my depth year aha moments. And anyway, and I started reading this to kind of help anchor some of those awarenesses into my brain. So while this doesn't particularly deal with tarot, it actually has been really helping me during this depth year, because it's just about your attention. What you pay attention to in life is so important. Like that's what your life is about. Like if you're sitting there and you're, paying attention to an ad or whatever, you know, that part of your life, that 5 minutes or whatever, that's gone. You spent that. Like, that's currency that you spent on that ad. That's your time, is what you pay attention to. That's your time. And so for me, it's been about trying to reclaim my time, by more being more conscious about what I am paying attention to and making sure that it is beneficial for me. And instead of trying to please other people by using my spending power in a way that is, to make me feel important to other people, that's not really any kind of lasting sentiment. It's just a fleeting, I appreciate your money type of a thing for some people, not for others. I mean, there's some people out there that really genuinely appreciate support, and you know, I'll continue to buy from like individuals and stuff like that. But just being a lot more conscious with what I pay attention to, and that this book has been really helping me with that. And I'm only about 100 pages in, and there's a lot of notes, so I think there's only about 300. About 350 pages. So that's what I'm working on now. So that has been an awful lot of stuff for this month, and there's been so much more going on. I'm doing a huge move towards zero waste and minimalism, and there's been so much going on with that. I'm going to a galactic shamanism workshop this weekend, which I'm super excited about. And yeah. So that's just the books and cards and stones. Like, it's been a really interesting month, and I'm really looking forward to next month. And seeing if being more aware and conscious, like if it's going to help me, if it's going to help me in reining in some of my spending and all that, and seeing how that goes. So anyway, thank you so much for watching and just being a part of this channel, and I will talk to you later. I hope you have a good one.